out. What I have to do is more important. And, it's to work with that. Good. Anyone else?
Not to hold heat. Not to hold heat.
Hold heat.
If someone apologizes.
Ah, that's right. Yeah. So accepting somebody's apology and not to keep burning about it. So there's 46 secondary ideas we should keep and 18 root ideas we should keep. I've compiled a list of all of them with the explanations, and I'll put it up on the website sometime soon. Don't know when. Yeah. So you can review them and check them. So you don't just get the headline, you get the explanation as well. So for those of you who want to keep these vows or practice or play with these vows, if you don't want to take the vows formally, but you want to practice with the wish, which is something I got to do. I was too scared when they were offered to me for the first time when Geshe Michael finished teaching this class, and he offered vows, or people asked him for vows, and he said, I'm going to do a ceremony. I was way too scared I was going to screw them up. I was really, really frightened, I didn't think I could hold a meditation, let alone keep these kind of ideas in my mind. Part of me regrets holding off so long. Part of me says, if I'd done this faster, I would be closer to something. I don't know what the idea is. But, part of me has a tiny regret about it. But another part of me is sort of really happy that I was honestly and truly making efforts to meditate, internalize all these other ideas, and if this thing works, then I should naturally want to be kind to others in this way. And that's how it worked out for me. So I took them and I practiced them, and then by the time I moved back here, I was ripe and ready to receive them and I knew them. I'd played with them, and then I didn't feel I broke them, So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the ideas about keeping these vows. Once you develop this in your mind, how do you keep them? And this should be true of any promise you make. There's something special about making a promise. I mean, we're talking about wedding ceremonies. That's a big promise in life. I promise to love you, I promise that I'll be with you despite everything else, regardless what happens to me. I'm going to come back to you because I found this thing in you. We make promises not to eat chocolate. Some of us. So keep these ideas in mind about keeping a promise. And the Tibetans say, through the Indian tradition, if you really think, if you want to keep these vows alive and you understand the karma and emptiness relationship, things don't have a nature from their own side. The nature is forced upon you because it doesn't have a nature. It's forced upon you because of the habituations and the energies in your system upon that blankness. And therefore it appears truly, and it is that way for you, but it's not that way by itself. It is that way for you. So if that's true, then keeping these vows, the key and the energy and the engine is understanding that. And if you understand that, then one of the ideas to develop these vows in your mind is respecting the Buddha's speech, they say, the speech of the Buddha. And this is thinking, if I say to you, here are the Bodhisattva vows, here they are. What comes to mind about where they came from, really for you? We talked a little bit about this last week. Some dude made them up. He was tied under a tree and he decided to write them up. Did the Sangha write them up? Did Tsongkhapa change them a little? What comes to mind for you? And they say that what you should develop here is this idea that across time, a being who has a mind so evolved, if your mind can evolve from a baby mind, a mind that has medium awareness, you can develop strong awareness, you can develop single-pointedness, there are these extraordinary mind abilities that they say one can have, right? If you believe a mind can evolve and can transcend and so on, then at what point does it stop evolving? What's the highest evolution you can imagine? Is it possible that a mind can see all things of all time? Is it possible that your enlightened mind can look back and see you here getting the seed to become enlightened? Is it possible that your mind can in the future see your present mind self? She'll get it. He'll get it. You got to think, what can happen to your mind? Once you ground yourself in that idea, then you've found in your path a set of vows that were spoken by the Buddha. You want to keep these things alive and ripening, you better habituate yourself to say, this is a message through time from an enlightened being to me personally. If they could see all things, and for Nick, this vow is specific for Ta. The more you habituate that, if things being empty of inherent existence, what do you think will happen? What do you think happens when you think you got a personal message from God?
You ignore it.
You know, enough of it, yeah. Can you ring back? Yeah. Yeah. So
Sleeping.
So if you can perceive yourself, if you can perceive of the words from these vows as being of that magnitude, then the energy around these promises become of that magnitude. One thing that I'm going to say at the end of class, and I'll repeat, and Shantideva said it, etc., is you practice at your own level. So I couldn't honestly say that at my level when I first got these ideas. I really couldn't. And if I overstretched it, if I pretended too much, I knew I was lying to myself. Yeah? But where is that edge for you? Where you say, up to here, I got it. I can think that way up to here and stretch that boundary just a little. That's practice. That expanding your vision of what this world is. We all have these boundaries. For me, this was one of my boundaries when I first got this. It's like, honestly, I don't really think it's possible for me. Because there's all these problematic issues. Now it's completely different for me. But at the time, I wasn't sure. So you've got to practice at your level. Because otherwise, if things are empty and you become what you habituate, and you know you're lying, what are you going to get? Right? Okay. So the first thing they say is respect the speech of the Buddha, which means think of them as your personal gift. The second one is you should have these three intentions if you are thinking of these vows or taking these vows. The first one is obviously intend to follow them. Like, don't make it just another thing, you know? Don't make it just another thing you like on Facebook. Don't make it just another thing that's a novelty, and then your mind goes jumping to the next thing and the next thing and the thing. There's a code in this system or this story. There's a code in here it's said to give you a result if you follow this code. So the first thing you should do is when studying or getting the vows is intend to keep them. Yeah? Intend to follow them. Despite your ignorant self, right? Despite the one that says, I know better. If you knew better, then why aren't you enlightened yet? You know, I'm talking for myself. Yeah? And then think big. Intend to get enlightened. Don't say, I'm going to keep this because the priest said, you know, which is what I used to do as a kid. You know, someone said, you have to be good. I have no idea why, so I will. Duh. You know, my mind wants to figure out, well, what happens if I'm good? And why is this good and that bad? Like, I want to figure it out. So, if you intend to keep them, know why, and know what it will give you as a result. Don't think that you're just going to follow something as a punishment because you have to be a Buddhist, and then you have to be punished to suffer because the Buddhists are all about suffering. Yeah, it's not that. This is do you really think it's possible for you to reach Buddhahood? Really, really? Do you think it's possible for you to reach Buddhahood? And this is especially harder for us old folk who have listened to so much stuff. For me, it's difficult now to get more and more intensity from wisdom traditions without my habituated old mind saying, oh, I know what that's about. I know what that's about. You know? I want to punch myself in the head when I hear that come up. Seriously, I'm like, I've seen that before. That keeps me here. I challenge myself all the time. I try and put myself in situations that step me out of my habituation. So for the older students and the older practitioners of anything, if you're getting comfortable thinking, I know what that's about. If you stop feeling that fire, that beautiful bubbling, that childish search for the unknown, you know, that discovery that says what's on the other side of the planet, that thing, if you should have that alive and vibrant about life. If that's died down and you're like, oh no, yeah, that's just that and that's just that, then you're going to get just that. You know, so this one for me, I think, took the longest to think, is it possible really for you specifically to get enlightened? Because if it's not, it's better to listen to that, what was the name? Let's drink up and have some booze. Patti Smith? No, what's her name?
The one you song.
Yeah, the
The
song.
song you showed. Is that all there is?
Is that all there is? Yeah, what was that? Is that all there is?
Then let's keep dancing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Who was that?
I mean, I heard
Peggy Lee.
Peggy Lee, thank you. Yeah, I was going Patti Smith, Peggy Lee. Yeah. Okay.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's back in. So you're like with the crowd. Yeah. Oh no, I just wait enough time and then it's all back in. Yeah. Peggy Lee. If you don't think you can get enlightened, may as well go and drink up and have a ball. It's finished. Enjoy it. If you don't think you can have a transformative experience from this or whatever system you're following, I think this is good advice for any promise that you want to keep. Do you think you can be free from the habitual patterns that catch us in suffering? If you are, how do you think it's going to happen? You're just wanting it? Oh, well, you know. I remember as a child wanting my mum, I told you, wanting to kill her because she hit me. And then he didn't do it. And then when she was nice, I'm like, oh, please don't, cancel the order. Yeah. It's so true. I was so like quick to cancel it. Yeah. Don't kill her, she cooked me dinner. So you really ask yourself, do you think you can be free from suffering? Are you okay to get enlightened? Are you good enough to get enlightened? You know? If there's something blocking you, destroy what's blocking you. You know? If there's something, no, I'm just going to be a schmuck now. You know? Next lifetime I'm going to be a cockroach. So people step on me. No. Why can't you get enlightened? Have you ever been happy? Why can't you feel that again? Have you ever been in love? Why can't you feel that again? Why can't you feel it without attachment? Why can't you feel it forever? You can't. And don't just do it for yourself. So 5 things that keep these vows alive is, first of all, having power around where the voice of these, the word that came, without sounding preachy. The higher your motivation there, the higher your awareness there, the stronger the power in this vow. There's no vow outside of your perception of the vow, by the way. Vow the way. Yeah. And then to have these 3 intentions, I want to keep them. Yeah, I can use them to get enlightened, and it's not just for me. Yeah, there's all these other creatures crawling around. And then they say, well, take them, make a promise, make the promise based on the first two. Make the promise. Decide, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Sounds like an awful long time. And then make that commitment to yourself as your practice. If I'm going to use this precious human life for something useful, why not reach a state of complete bliss where I'm in love with absolutely everyone? Is that worth going to the being gym for? The gym of my very being, yeah? Or should I go to Crunch and just get a beautiful body? I mean, I don't need that, obviously. I decided to keep this body like this as a Bodhisattva activity, so you could all feel better about yourselves. So, this was hard for me, any commitment of it, and specifically nowadays, we're committed to something for 3 seconds nowadays. It's like we're becoming goldfish. So then you say, I want to take the vows. You think, you have an awakening moment, you think, what do I want to do with my life? And for me, I was very fortunate. I had the perfect Buddhist teacher in front of me. I had the perfect mental affliction that said, I don't believe you, you're crazy, I hate you. Yeah, I don't like you. But everything you're saying is interesting. Yeah? So I had this. Seriously, because he represented religion and it's true.
But Hector, we feel the same way.
Yeah. This is Papa's Namo talking. Yeah. But then I had on the peripheral all these beings. I didn't know there were special angel beings who were saying stuff to me. Yeah, and they weren't the traditional Lama. There were all these people I trusted and my friends and so on. I listened to them, and then I'm like secretly going to this dude, and at the beginning, initially. And I was being informed about similar things at the time. So the way I thought about what do you do with lifelong commitment to things, like what am I going to do with the rest of my life? What am I going to do with this thing? And somebody, this crazy dude in a call center said to me this, Paul, I think his name was, yeah? He said, all you have to do is look 10 years ahead or 20 years ahead. And then whatever you want to become, go hang around those folk. And he goes, if they're happy, go around them. If they're unhappy, doing whatever they're doing, don't do that. Yeah? And so at the same time, I'm listening, I have these ideas in my head from this crazy dude at the call center, and I've got this Tibetan teacher. And I, honestly, I didn't see great things 10 years, at 30 and at 40 and at 50 and at 60. It looked exactly the same. Get someone pregnant, pop out a baby, 20 years feeding the baby, then you forgot your dreams. This is what I saw. I'm not saying that's what is true, yeah? I'm saying this is what I saw at the time. This was the thing that drove my, what do I do with this life? Get a house, go on a holiday, have lots of sex. I wish I could have lots of sex. Yeah. So I did all those things. No. But really, I felt, it was like I felt flat every time. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what they're doing at 50. I don't want to do that. Let's see what they're doing at 60. I don't want to do that. Let's talk to them. The grumpy old 50-year-olds and the grumpy old 60-year-olds. And then the crazy ones. They were crazy. Some of them were crazy. I didn't want that. So I thought, why not rebel? Why not do the opposite? No babies. I'll do the career because I want to be responsible, but I wasn't in it, for the money or the fame or whatever. And I wanted to try something else. And it is like, if anybody's seen the Australian movie Bliss, it is still like that. This movie, there's this love between two people, and she rejects him, and he starts stalking her in the rainforest. She goes to move in the rainforest, and he starts coming close to where she's staying, and he's in the forest. She's like, "Go away, old man, go away, old man." For years, he's coming to her peripheral, and you don't know what's happening in the movie, and he's planting trees, he's planting trees, he's planting trees. And her name was Honey Barbara. She looked after bees, and year after year she had terrible honey. And after 20 years, this love letter that took 20 years to arrive, all these trees flowered. And this 1 year she got the letter of all the years of effort. That seemed like hard work, digging in the hole, and putting in the trees, and getting her to hate you, and feeling crazy, and will this ever get to her? 20 years later, her honey is like the most magnificent honey she has ever tasted. And she understood that something has been happening for 20 years. To me, these vows, these promises, this way of life is sort of like that. I can tell pretty much, at least from my perspective, what living in the world requires of me. You know, I've got to go get a job, I've got to go do this, got to do really. We're the same. Everybody wants a bit of fame, everyone wants a little bit of money. You know, and there's lists for that too. But what if, you know, you can really transform this being truly? Then I thought that was worth. And if I failed, the worst I could do is become nicer. You know, like if I failed at it, I might be a little broke, but I'd be sort of content. I thought that was worthwhile. So taking the vows for a life, that was enough for me to go, I'll take them. I'll make a promise to do this. And then once you have them, keep them. Respect them as the highest possession. Because like that love letter that took 20 years to arrive, it will have a result. It is like whatever your most powerful possession is now, like, you know, I've got my antique painting, or I've got my house in the forest, or whatever it is that you have that you think you own, that if anybody came close to take it, you're like, no, that's mine. That's mine. All those things are going away. These things are not going away if you keep them. They only go away if you don't keep them. If they can free you from suffering, if they can color your consciousness to a point where you feel this love for all beings, for all time, if they can produce that result, that kind of honey, then they are your highest possession. If you understand that, then you'll do anything to keep them. Yeah? Like I said before, at your level. At your level. Adding beating yourself up because I'm so bad, I'm broken, and it's so terrible, but that's a waste of time. Yeah, don't do that. You should have some, let's keep this. I think when Geshe Michael taught this, he was talking about his boss who grew his company and the international, the diamond company, so fast, so much money. You know, they had a Macy's contract, I think, at the time. Or they were like quadrupling that business every year. I was there when Andon was growing. Diamond, everybody wanted diamond everything. He says, you know, like, we should keep it like my boss wants to keep the business going. Like, you don't want to let that go. We have all these diamonds coming in and people buying them, and our business is going to be #1 diamond company, and that we're like, I don't want to lose that. Which means you're going to do anything to protect it. Yeah. Should be like that. That's what they say. And avoid breaking them. And for me, that means having the state of mind where you actually do regular, serious confessions of the states of mind you think you've broken. Yeah? So going to somebody that you value on a regular basis and having this session that you says, you know, I was thinking this way and I did that with my mind, or I did that with my body, or I did that with my speech. And having a confession practice embarrasses you to the point where you don't do it again. You feel like me. But also it should prevent you from ever wanting to go there again, because when you hear yourself saying, you go, I can't believe I did that. What was happening? You know, and bringing that to your conscious awareness rather than hiding it and thinking, I'm doing well, I'm doing very well, I'm doing very well. You know? Because if you understand karma and emptiness, everything we do, think or say, everything is a seed growing. And it will produce a result similar to that thing that was planted. So you better clean up the things that are obstructing you from experiencing this world in bliss. Not because you're bad, not because you're terrible, those years are finished. It's because you understand that the ideas that you're habituating in your mind and you're allowing to habituate in your mind are what's actually going to produce your reality. Where do you think this reality came from? Why didn't you get another reality? Where did that come from for you? So the practice of confession is should get you to the point where you say, I'll try and avoid that again. Yeah. So for the secondary offenses, you find one person. There's all these rules, but really, what are you protecting? You're protecting your mind. You're protecting the things, the garden in your mind. And that's for any promise: a wedding promise, a personal promise, Bodhisattva promise. So they're those 5. Let me give you another 5. 5 levels of breaking the vow. Okay, I'm just sharing with you so you know if you're going to take vows or if you're going to think of vows, then there are things that have more powerful impact on what you're building than other things. And so here is another list of what gives some activity more strength to break it than others. So the first is the nature of the vows. For example, the root vows and the secondary vows. They say the root vows, the first 18, are way more powerful because the result would be, because they're large ideas that encompass broad sections of this thing you're building. But they say, Lama Tsongkhapa said, that it freezes your merit. It prevents you from reaching the first Bodhisattva bhumi, which is having that direct experience of emptiness. If you break a root vow with those 4 conditions, do you remember those? Yeah. So breaking a root vow, you should be more protective of the root vows than the secondary vows. You should be protective of all, but any state of mind that is of the nature of the first 18 vows, you should make more efforts to protect, and have more power if you understand the nature of them than the secondary vows over your perception about who you are later. The second factor is the instigators, like what made you break them. And there's, I think, 3 things in there. The first one is not knowing them. So there's 3 levels of seriousness. Not knowing them. You have a mental attack, a klesha attack. Yeah, what's a klesha? Mental affliction. So you acted, you reacted, it was overwhelming. That's a little bit more serious than not knowing them. Yeah? Because you have more awareness about what's going on. And the worst one is really disrespecting them or discounting them. You know, going, I know I'm not supposed to, but for this time, I feel like it. That's actually way more damaging to that thing you're trying to build in your own consciousness than not even knowing you broke it, or being overwhelmed with some kind of anger or jealousy, or, By the way, they are all damaging that state of mind. Yeah, it's not somebody judging you, by the way, it's not something from outside. It's all you observing yourself doing these things. Do you see that? Yeah, it's like, this is your internal laboratory. This is you working with your own consciousness. to produce a result. For years I thought somebody else outside was watching. And it stopped me from so much good work. When I broke that freedom, that was my karma to see that way. When I broke free from that, the responsibility was heavier, but it was freer. Yeah. Having the 3 poisons in mind is another thing that affects. So the more you have any of these 3, you know the 3 poisons? They are the center of the wheel of life. You have a pig, a snake, and a chicken or a pig is ignorance. Yeah, meaning what? This is really important. Meaning not understanding the nature of what the hell's happening, right? The nature of the reality I'm experiencing. They're saying, if you don't understand the true nature of what's happening right now, you are likely to act in 2 ways. So if you have the pig, you're likely to react like in 2 ways. I'm going to ignorance is the pig, ignorantly like something because it's going to get me what I want, or dislike something, push it away because it's annoying me, and if I push it away, I'll be free from it. Both are karmically incorrect. Both are actually creating more ignorance and more suffering. The only way to get away from the things you don't want is not to hurt them and push them and hate them. That's the only way you guarantee to experience hatred and pushback and the things you don't like. It's karmically inside out. That's why it's ignorant.
Yeah.
Addressing things with that state of mind forces you to have more of that. That's why it's the center of the wheel of samsara. And ignorantly liking something is, I love that. And the first impulse is, I want it for me. Because I like it so much. It seems so natural to us as humans, but it's karmically retarded, inside out. The only way to guarantee you will never have that again is to keep it and not share it. The only way you get things is to give them. Ignorance is not knowing that. So ignorantly liking and ignorantly disliking, the more you have that, the stronger you have that around the vows, the things you do, praising yourself, criticizing others, stealing, etc., the higher, the more strong the result is in your mind. Nowhere else, by the way, right? Than in your awareness, in your mind. So ignorantly liking, ignorantly swaying, and I didn't correct that. C shouldn't be disrespecting you, but it should be ignorance. Yeah, I just copy pasted. I'm lazy. I apologize. Okay, and the 4th thing is the object to which you do any kind of the vow activity, and this should drive really your behavior in general. These 5 things, the objects to which you do things. So the example in the text is a human or a human fetus versus an animal. So if in your mind you're acting in a certain way, disrespectfully or harming a human or human fetus, and they don't make any distinction in the text about those 2, they say it's the same thing, or an animal, then you naturally have a propensity to think that the human is more likely to get enlightened than an animal. It seems to be a higher type of life form for you. It's not advocating to hurt animals, by the way. It's saying equally love and cherish all living beings. But if everything is equal, if the action and the motivation is equal, then the object to which you're acting towards makes a difference. That's what they're saying. Yeah? So if I am sitting in the subway and I'm feeling some kind of frustration and someone rubs me next to me and I'm thinking, piss off. Yeah? Just comes out like that. And I look and it's my mum. Yeah? And I didn't know it was my mum. I'm like, oh, I just said piss off to my mum. That's way more charged, unless she's naughty, which my mum is, which she wouldn't be, but blah, blah. That's way more charged than a stranger. Yeah? Unless the stranger was the Dalai Lama. And then all of a sudden, for me, that object is more charged. Or as charged as my mum. So the object, all things being equal, The object with which you're interacting makes a difference to the level of seriousness with which you break a vow. The next part is accumulation. That's right. How many of the vows are you breaking? So they said another way to think about it, if you're looking about the seriousness of the negativity you're building or the barriers that are down to protect that vow, if you've got 2 or 3, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, I think that's up to 5, then it's sort of low level radiation. It's a low level breaking. If you can still count them, if there's like, I think I broke 12 vows today, I think there's 12 of those ideas that I screwed up, then that's sort of a medium. And if you've lost count, if more than you can count, then that's quite serious, because then you've got no control about what's happening.
I thought if you break any of the vows, it's beyond serious. I mean,
If you break any of the root vows, which requires a lot of breaking, remember there was like the 4 states of mind, and you had to have this, and all the exceptions had to be missing. It's hard to break the 18 root vows.
So if you've broken one, this isn't for breaking it. But if you've truly broken one, then
If you truly broke one, you should retake them, is the advice. If it's really a break and you're certain of it, it's difficult to restore the root vows. You can restore them and you can have a whole bunch of merits and experiences. It just freezes the merit and experience that gets you to have the first Bodhisattva booming if you haven't had that first. You can still see emptiness without bodhicitta if you're going to get technical. Yeah? So it shouldn't prevent you from trying to continue. In fact, it might fuel you to get it perfect. If you break any of the secondary vows, can you or can you not restore them? Yeah, you can restore them. Yeah, they're not like the primary vows. So this is predominantly a commentary talking about the secondary ones. So if you can count them in your hand, you should restore them through confession to one person and making efforts to not do that again. Yeah. I think I've got a little bit more, and then we're gonna take a break, and then I'm gonna invite Anahita and Nick to share that thing, and then we're all gonna talk about vows. But let's see what else I got for you. A couple more lists. 4 that cause a break, and they're antidotes. So these are things that you should flag to you. If I have much of this, I'm probably going to break them, right? Here we go. Not knowing the vows. Yeah. The antidote for that? Learn the things. Why not more than learn them? Become a master. And really, go through them. And if it takes you a year, then do that. If it takes you 6 months, do that. What else are you going to do with your human life? If nothing else, imprint your mind with the idea that it's possible for you to get free of suffering and love everything. Why not just try that?
Is it important to do that before you take them?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say go and learn and become a master of it, and then by the time it's like you're building up, it's like what we're doing with 108 Lives. The 108 Lives team are building these ideas about the homeless people in Nepal and the children and you're building this charge. It's like pulling back the rubber band, and then when you let go, it's like yeah, if you're like, I'm just going to go help the kids. Here I go, I'm helping the kids. It's the same with the Bodhisattva vows. It's like, you are responsible for the kind of charge they have, which means you are responsible for the kind of result you'll have. So you've got to become, nobody out there is going to say, hey Nick, I know exactly well, they might if you perceive them that way. Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you need, and I think it's this and that. At the end of the day, you're the one.
What is it? What do I need?
So become a master of the vows. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Your carelessness, forgetfulness, laziness. This is what I'm talking about. If you're an older practitioner of anything, you're like, just get too relaxed about things, and you're like, oh no, I've done that before, I'm going to continue. And it's like you've evolved. If you've had enough energy, you've evolved to a certain level of awareness about this magnificent world that is appearing in front of you, and then you get stuck there. And it could be amazing, but we get stuck there. A laziness, oh, I like my routine, I won't go to that again. It's like you have to push yourself continuously to unveil the normality we cover our lives with. Yeah? So the antidote to that is being mindful. Know what you are nurturing. Constantly find new ways to excite yourself around creating that world. The third thing that can cause you to break vows is pleasure attacks. When I say attacks, it sounds like it's something from outside, right? But you know, I mean, I've had moments where I'm beside myself with anger or jealousy or judgment. Who gave me that? Where did that come from? Why did it appear in my mind then? And everyone else is giggling and I'm sitting here and everything is annoying. Everyone else is having a great time and then even the giggle is annoying, you know? I wish you'd shut up. Where did that come from? Who's responsible for that?
You are.
Yeah. So then can I do anything at that time, right? When that's like, I wish you'd shut up. My level of practice is, at that time, is so basic that all I can do is wait for it to change. Like, that's the best I can do, honestly. Sometimes I just sit there and I'm like, I can put on the stupid face, and then inside I'm boiling, but I'm like, so if you ever see me in conversation with you and I'm like, you know you're annoying the hell out of me. But, you know, when the pleasure attacks come, it's a little late. It's a little late. It's already ripened. So the thing what's the antidote? Is identify what are your propensities. Is it jealousy? Is it anger? What is it? Judgment. You know, we got the list of the top 10 from every tradition. You got the list of the things. What is it for you? And don't pretend you don't know. You know. When they get you, they get you. So when you're healthy, when they don't get you, work on them. Work on them. Chip away at them. Do the opposite of them. The Western world loves going to shrinks. I learned that in New York in the 90s. Like, I felt I was missing out. Everyone had a shrink. I needed to go to a shrink. Yeah? So I found a mental affliction. I had a problem and the shrink helped me. She was sort of helpful. She wanted to talk about my fat. I'm like, I don't want to talk about my fat. Yeah, I'm done with you. Fixed. She fixed my real problem. She then wanted to talk about my tummy. I'm not talking to you about my tummy. Yeah, annoying shrink. And then we went. Then look, 5 years or something happened, and so I had some other problem, you know, about work. And I went to see another shrink, and you know, he helped me about that problem. And then he wanted to talk about my tummy. I'm not talking. Stupid shrink. And then, you know, when you see your own patterns, that you should go see a shrink when you're healthy. You should go and see a shrink when everything is rosy. Knock, knock. Everything's good. But you know, my tummy, people keep wanting to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Can you help me not talk about my tummy? Yeah. And then they should help you get they should help you get over the things that attack you and you have no control over because they're so big in you. Yeah, you should help you. There's plenty of methods in all traditions. Mindfulness is a good start. Then there's disrespecting the vows. Like I said before, this is another way of destroying them. Yeah, you know them, you got them. People have said to you, Buddha said these things. If you keep them, you get enlightened. It's not a complicated message, okay? If you maintain certain states of mind, despite I know everything, you should get a result. Maybe there's something in that I know everything that you need to overcome. Maybe that's the thing for you. So the only thing I can say about that is keeping them. It's sort of a stubbornness for me. keeping them until you get the result. If things are empty, you must get the result. Yeah? When I changed my mind about Geshe Michael, when I wasn't so annoyed and rejecting of him at the beginning, this was one of the things that gave him cred for me. Was like the guy and all Tibetan monks are like complete rebels in this way of living life. They're like about suffering. They're like, we're gonna not get married, not have sex, we're doing this. We're like, screw you to suffering. We're gonna do the opposite. I'm like, I want to be a rebel. I want to be that. It gave me the resolve to keep at it until I got a result. And the more you study, the more you study, the more you study, the more you realize that when you experience a result, where did it come from? Is the result out there somewhere? You experienced the result because you did something. There is power in that. The results are real. Your life changes. But something about your mind assigns a reason for that result. Most of us say, I've never had to look for work for the last 15 years. People have always come to me offering me work because I went to university. I've got a good degree. Because I have a funny accent. They think I know more than I know. Seriously. Whatever you assign to the result are levels of truth. What if the highest level of truth about why that result is a result is because you perceive it so? What would make you perceive it so? Something else in your mind. So what I'm saying for the last one is the only way to keep the vows is to keep them until they give you a result. And I've used this example before about kids. I don't have kids, I've got 8 nephews and nieces, and I love making trouble for my brothers and sisters by teaching them rude words, how to draw on walls and eat tons of chocolate. Yeah. But one thing I noticed with them, and I keep using this analogy, and I think it's brilliant. We don't question whether or not that child, after it's a baby, it's going to walk. We really don't question it. And I remember at the ripe age of 9 months, my nephew was beginning to sit up and wobble and do all these things. So I'd put him up against the wall and lean him up, and he'd be so happy. Then he'd lean forward and fall, and I'd catch him. And then he'd lean forward and fall, and I'd catch him. Until I moved away a little bit more, and he would do a step and then fall, and I'd catch him. Until he did 1-2 steps. When he did those 2 steps, I knew he could walk. But it never entered my mind, it never enters any parent's mind to say, you will not walk. It's not like you fall the 5th time and you say, please don't try anymore. Seriously, you say it 7 times, 8 times, 100 times? How many times did you fall until they said, okay, stop trying? We'll put you in a chair and then we'll wheel you around. We don't do that. We say you keep trying until you succeed. And that's true for the last one. You want the vows to work? Try until you succeed. If you know the mechanics of it, that helps. But the experience of it, no one can give you that. Final five temporal benefits to vows. Sorry for the lists. I wanted to share with you as much as I got from this course, right? So they say the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas attend to those that follow this morality because it's what got them there. And to put it in nominal terms, if you think a being can become evolved using this morality, then those beings that got most evolved using this morality are paying close attention to any heart that has these moralities. They say in your last hours of death, you will have and experience a great happiness. There's a cleanness that comes from the keeping this kind of morality pure. At the moment of death, you have no things on your conscience. You have no regrets if you've kept them cleanly. There's nothing constricting or refraining you at the time of death in your final hours. They say in your future life, once your body passes, in your future experience of being, you will be around beings that have this similar type of morality, bodhisattvas and the rest. And it makes sense if you think that you'll have equal and opposite results to what you've planted. The fourth is you have limitless amounts of merit in this life and in the perfection of morality. Yeah, you can reach the perfection of morality by making efforts despite your instincts to keep this morality alive in you. And the fifth one is you become a master at the same morality that you're nurturing in this life and in future lives. So if you have any propensity towards any of these beautiful things, then it's because you've got the seeds for them. And then practice at your own level. You create that push, you create that boundary, and practice with people you love and share. So that's all I've got for you in terms of lists for this most beautiful and magnificent thing, which is a kind of rebellion against normal, boring life, finding the magic in the possibility of being alive here, really birthing it here. Not later, not some other time, now, birthing your magnificence. The rest is up to us. Like, we have to go, okay, what do I do with that? Yeah, I understand there's these vows, I understand there's these promises. I understand this is true about my mental continuum. The way I perceive the world, the way I act towards the world forces me to perceive the world in a similar way. So these give us a very nice, structured way to push our consciousness towards something that is promising a result of bliss and loveliness. I hope it lands in your heart like it landed in mine, but faster. I hope it lands in your heart with the hope that you could use it in the best, real, honest way for you as you've come on this world. And may, with these ideas, you impact every single creature that sees you and says, that's a lovely being, I wonder why. That's a beautiful person, I wonder why. I love Chris, he's amazing, I wonder why. And you're having a secret, beautiful practice of these things that you don't need to tell everybody about. You should just be mindful of transforming your consciousness. If you reach a result based on this morality, then you can really help. Until then, we're all crabs in a bucket trying to crawl out on top of each other. I've got the top view. Someone crawls on top of you. Let's end it there. Beautiful image, enlightening image. Let's have a 10-minute break, and then we can hear from beautiful Anahita and Nick sharing their story of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's teaching, and then open discussion. Yeah, and hopefully I can hear more about life from you. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.